Hey, good morning, afternoon, or evening, friend. I'm Case Erickson here with the infamous, the one, the only Michael Judson Berry, the multi-talented entertainer who started his career at the age of 6, starring as the Prince in The King and I. And then he went on to receive his BFA in theater arts from Boston University and then an MA in classical acting from London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. He toured the country as Patsy in the national tour of Monty Python's Spamalot, and most recently dubbed as a viral sensation, which is how I knew him for his Schitt's Creek impressions during QuranTea Time, garnering millions of views and spreading millions more smiles in what could be described as some of our darkest times. So he has been an absolute light to me and a light to everyone else and an inspiration. And he's just shining, shining, shining left and right. An encouragement of goodness and just a bright light, no matter really what time of the year it is. So I'm so honored to have him here and be the man of shine that he is. So Michael, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here.
That is the best introduction I have ever had. I'm just sitting here grinning. I was like, that's amazing. Thank you for that. That was beautiful. I feel so special now.
No, but seriously, like you are my season 7, like Schitt's Creek star. Like when I first connected to you, like back when you first started
Yeah.
doing the quarantine time, I think you literally like, I mean, it was pretty close in the beginning where I was like, OMG, I'm just like obsessed. And so just to see you get the attention and um it's just been such a pleasure, and every time it comes out and you just get more and more. um First of all, can you hear me okay, because my audio is going in and out?
Yeah, you sound great on my
Okay,
end.
good. So it's just my earphones. Okay. um yeah, so it's just I'm upset, like I'm just like I'm giddy. I feel like I'm just got talking to like one step from Moira Rose, you know what I mean? um Before we get into like so when I talk about Schitt's Creek, I want, it's kind of like twofold. I want everybody to watch the show, and then I want everybody to watch Michael Judson Berry. So it's like those are the two things on my list. Like if you don't watch that show, I can't help you in life.
Uh-huh.
And then
Yeah,
so
you can only do so much.
you can't. I mean, it's just like thank you and namaste, and you can't. You know. So when did you start? What I want to know, kind of what the show meant to you. Did you start watching the show from the beginning? Really, kind of how did this evolution occur? Had you always been in love with Schitt's Creek? Like, how many times have you watched it? How often do you watch it? Tell me all about the Schitt's Creek story for you.
I thought I was like a huge Schitt's Creek fan, and then since I started this, I've gotten to meet and heard from real Schitt's Creek fans. So I I was really late to the game. I started watching it when season 4 had just ended. But my roommate, I moved in with a new roommate, and that was like his show. Um, so he got me into it. So I watched the first 4 seasons, and then immediately went back and watched them all again because it took me a minute to get into it. I think season 1 was sort of a minute of like, what is going on? And then I went back and I was like, okay, yes, this is brilliant. And so from there, I was hooked.
Yeah.
But I will say I did hold off a little bit on watching the final season just because I didn't want it to
Right.
end.
You weren't ready to
I was
grieve
one
the
of those
loss.
people. So what I did, and I hadn't been back to the beginning since that initial rewatch. So I went
Okay.
back to the beginning and watched
Oh.
from episode 1 all the way through to the end of season 6, or to the final season.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and that was, and so that was just recently. I went back and just did it all. But yeah, it's such a beautiful show. And I, as like someone who's done a lot of comedy and comedy acting,
Yeah.
I'm just in awe of them just because they're all so over the top and they're all so like these are characters, but yet they all
Yes.
ground them in such beautiful humanity where it's like, I
Yes.
fully believe you're a real person, Moira Rose, even though no one speaks like that. And the way you dress and everything, but I never doubt for a second that you're a real human. And same with
Yes.
Alexis, who feels so over the top, but it's like I could run into her in Tribeca. And
Exactly.
it's just like they all did such a brilliant job of walking that line. Um, So yeah, and I just think it's lovely. They created this world that just seems like a nicer, softer version of the world that we live
Mhm.
in. So there's something so comforting about watching that show. So I see
Yeah.
why so many people watch it a lot, like when they're sad, when they're stressed.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just so soothing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel the same way about your quarantine time. Like, I'm like, it's my season 7. It's like, you know, my juice. Um, and that I have my tea here, see the
See the
good. And
good.
this is in honor of, you mentioned your mother in the beginning, having that support from your mother
Mhm.
and, her telling you to always focus on the positive. And, I'm a big believer in, we get more of that which we choose to see, so
Mhm.
choosing to see the good. Were you all and so like a couple of your posts that you've made where you could have made a possibly negative spin, like one of my favorite ones was the one that you did after the attacks on the Capitol,
Uh-huh.
how you were basically saying, everyone's a wounded child to, reading between the lines, like
Yeah.
everybody's just a little screwed up. Have you always been like this, silver lining kind of character?
I think so. I've always been sort of obnoxiously optimistic.
Okay.
Um,
Because I'm like the meme girl. I have to deliberately work at it.
No, I'm totally that person who's always like, "Oh, guys, let's all be happy." Um, I think because that was sort of my role in my family a bit. It's just I have an older sister. It's just the two of us and my parents, and the four of us are really, really tight. But all four of
Nice.
us are very strong personalities,
Mm,
and do family vacations. We do a lot together, and so we all have our roles. Where it's like my sister's the really smart, pointed one who gets us from A to B. She's an engineer, so it makes
okay,
sense.
got it.
Um, and I'm always the one that sort of like kept us happy
Mm,
in a lot of ways, where I was sort of the token goofball, which then has translated into other, in my friend groups and stuff. I think that's just a sort of, yeah, the who I am. And like you said with my mom, when I first started making these, it was just sort of a joke with my friends. I was like, I don't know, I'll just pop a wig at my head and I have nothing else to do. And the second one
hashtag
I did got a few thousand views, and my mom called me, yeah, and she was like, "Michael, if you're gonna do this thing, try and keep them positive because that's what we need right now is just a
yes.
reminder." Because this was back last April, so when
Yeah, in the
things,
beginning.
especially in New York, were just
Mhm.
getting really bad,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I'm glad she did. So every episode, it's sort of like, how can I find the slightly more optimistic, slightly more hopeful, but still with that Moira
Yes.
sensibility where sometimes she
Yes.
can be a little cutting. So probably
Right.
my parody of Moira might be a little bit more goody two shoes than the original Moira.
Uh-huh.
But yeah,
Right. Yeah, but she
even
has that side for sure.
yeah. But even yeah, with the Capitol, after that happened, it was obviously such a devastating thing to see for all of us.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, how can I address this, but in a way that still feels on brand, if you will?
Mhm.
And it did
Mhm.
make me think, like, what's something that I would take away from this? It's like, well, what do we teach our children? And then what do we forget when we're grown-ups? What are those basic lessons
Yeah, yeah.
that maybe I
Seriously.
can remind people, which is to play nice and respect each other? While I wear
Can
15
imagine.
wigs. And I always try to have that kind of a thing where it's like, if there's usually a message, and if you choose to see the message, great. But if all you want to do is see wigs and hear funny jokes, then that's what it is too. These can be as deep or superficial as you want them to be.
Well, I think that's why, honestly, that's why it resonates with so many people, is it because it does have that underlying message that appeals to our basic humanity that we're born with, which is,
Mhm.
to treat other with kindness and to do unto others as we would have done unto us, like these
Yeah.
things I feel like are intrinsic, like how we come out.
Mhm.
We're all playing in the same sandbox, and we sometimes forget,
Yeah.
and we get programmed otherwise.
Yeah. That's what my sister calls me, Mr. Rogers in a wig.
Oh my
And that's why I had
God,
another good friend. She was
yes.
like, "You feel like a children's show for grown-ups."
Yes,
And
cheers to that for
so
sure. I
I
mean,
was
this
like,
is
if
why I'm like talking to you from my closet and well, I didn't even mention this once we started recording, but you know, um, my Moira wig, this is the closest I can get to Moira's wig wall, but there's that playfulness and that wanting to play dress up and this, kind of intrinsic childlike quality that all of us like to see,
mhm.
even as adults. And I think that's a great analogy. So kudos to sister.
Yeah, she's
Not
she's
one.
a smart one. She also helped coach me for my Britney Spears impression. It
First of
was
all,
great.
okay, was it so Brittany?
Yeah, so Britney,
Brittany, oh my God, free
I
Brittany.
love
Have
her.
you watched the documentary yet?
Yes, that's
Oh,
why I
okay.
did a quarantine time right after I watched it.
Oh, okay.
I
I
was
haven't
like,
watched it yet.
I gotta
I
get
haven't
Britney in.
brought myself
Oh,
to it.
you have to be in a strong place emotionally for that
Got
one. It
it.
just makes you
Yeah.
feel so bad for her.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart. I'm rooting for
So
her.
good.
I
Yeah.
am. I'm totally rooting for her. But anyway, like I really wanted to kind of talk about, in this concept of, men who shine and shining their light and overcoming obstacles and confidence and fearlessness. I was curious, you talk about the first time you didn't actually post the video, like your first video. You kind of had other people review it, and
Yeah.
in the humble entrepreneur interview, you said you had to take this, you called it this fuck it pill, where you just
Basically.
like, okay, I'm just going to do it. So what was that experience for you like as an actor who had done other things on screen? Had you not posted anything to this, I guess some might call it extreme, or I don't know, like, yeah, had you not done anything like that before? And what was that experience like for you, to get to the point of actually posting it?
Yes, it was actually really scary at first. Because before this, I'd done a lot of improv, and then acting, but I hadn't done very much writing, and especially sketch writing.
Okay, got it.
Um, and so that initially was very scary to be like, I'm gonna write something myself, even though it's a parody of another character that obviously Catherine Herr created. But still, the words I was using were mine. And so that initially was very frightening. And then also to do that level of sort of a camp character. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'd always been, I like to think kind of a fearless actor where like, I will wear anything you could put me in any crazy costume. I love
Yeah,
to
yeah,
do
yeah.
voices. I love to really, you know, go for it as far as playing the most wackadoo character possible. But I was always, and I don't know if this is very much a personal thing, but I was always very nervous of being pigeonholed as a gay character.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like hearing the sound of my voice sometimes because I was like, oh, I sound too gay. And that was just sort of an actor fear of being, I didn't mind playing gay characters, but I was always nervous with my own personal Instagram page, my personal life, to sort of put that out there too much.
Yeah.
And this was like, now I'm playing, doing a parody of a gay icon in a wig. And
Yeah, exactly.
so,
You're like,
so
sure about that.
that, and even though the first wig I put on was real janky looking, it was just from the bottom of my roommate's closet, and I
Yeah, I
didn't
love
brush
it.
it, and I looked like Carol Channing on a bad day, and that's what after I did the first one, my friend who does drag messaged me, and he was like, Michael, if you're gonna do this, brush your hair. Um, but yeah, so it initially was very scary. And so I didn't post it first until my roommate, who's obviously the proper Schitt's Creek fan, he reviewed it. I sent it to a couple other friends. I was like, is this funny? Or is this just weird?
Yeah.
Um, and they were like, no, go for it. What have you got to lose? It's a pandemic. And
Yeah.
I was like, that's a good point. And it still took a few before I really started to feel confident in them. I just kept waiting for people to criticize me or attack me or call me things,
Mm.
because social
Mhm.
media, you put something out there, it's such an easy place for people to be negative.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
and so at the beginning, I read every comment, I was just waiting for the backlash,
Okay.
um, which somehow never came. Um, and even still, I get all these, I still look through comments and I still get thousands of comments now, and pretty much they're all very positive.
Uh-huh.
Um, so somehow I've managed to sort of evade that anger, the social media. But yeah, so it was a real hurdle to get over at the beginning, and personally and professionally, I guess you could say. So now it feels like such a personal victory. I'm like, I
I
feel
know.
amazing now.
Yes.
I feel so free.
Yes. And
The kid in me that loved to run around in my mom's high heels is like, finally, it's like I feel so much more like this is really who I am, and I finally get to show it to the world.
yes, I love that. And that kind of leads into my next question, around really fearlessness in general, and how, the fearlessness and in playing other characters, and putting yourself out there, how that has shown up in your real life.
Yeah, I think I definitely just in life feel significantly more confident now in what I can do. And because also it's not just Moira Rose anymore. It's I do the whole family. I
Yeah.
did Patrick Stewart and Britney Spears and Sharon, then a whole host of original characters that, again, I probably would have been too scared to before to put out characters that I'd created on my own and who are all over the map crazy. And
Uh-huh.
so I definitely feel that it's given me this major boost that I've never had before. And even now I'm getting more and more auditions for other
Yes.
acting work, I think because of this. And I feel so much better going into them. And I think
Yes.
my acting has gotten so much better just because I'm doing it almost every single day now. And it's like a
Yes.
muscle, if you don't do it. And before this, I was working 3-day jobs and auditioning when I could, but sometimes I'd go weeks without doing something. And um, so now, yeah, or even like going to get coffee, I feel like I'm more direct with people, still friendly, but I'm like, instead of being, I don't know, I think maybe I could have that. Maybe I'm like, I will have this, thank you. And you have a
Uh-huh.
great day. I think I have
Yes.
a lot more periods in my life now instead of question marks.
Yes, that's so great. I love that. What would you say, there was something else that was coming up for me in terms of why you wanted to have a collaboration. Obviously there's the Moira Rose collaboration.
Mhm.
I'm still holding out for that. That's just going to be like, she's just okay. Well, question about that. When Catherine O'Hara, how did you react when like, what did you do? Where were you? What did you think when she said what she said? First, tell us what she said. It was something of like how she thought you were great and you did a great job. I mean, do you have that quote framed
I
anywhere?
I have it saved. I haven't framed it yet.
Oh God.
Yes, and that came out of nowhere. What she was doing an interview leading up to the Emmys, and the man asked her, he's like, "How does it feel to know that you've created such an iconic voice that people such as this guy Michael Berry imitate?" And she was like, "Oh, I've seen him. He's really good." And there's no consistency to this accent, so whenever I
Right.
hear people try, it always sounds off. But his is really good, and his writing is really good, and so I was walking to go have like a socially distanced coffee walk with a friend, and someone texted me the article, and they were like, "Just scroll through to this point and read this." And I swear, I almost walked into traffic. I, and in case you
So
haven't noticed,
great.
I ramble a lot. I like it's a running joke with my family that I'm like a broken record, and I think that was one of the few times in my life I was just speechless. It's just like stunned because I've loved her since well before Schitt's
Oh my
Creek.
God. Yes.
I think Catherine O'Hara is a true uh, icon, I guess you
Oh
could say.
yes. She's incredible.
You know, with the Christopher Guest movies, with Home Alone, with SCTV, everything she's done, I have so much respect for her. And so for her to say that not just I was good, but my writing was good, it's like Einstein telling you you're good at math.
I know, right?
It was amazing.
You're like, I'm complete. I'm just this like right
Yeah,
right
I was
that
like,
wave.
I could just stop now. I should go just become an accountant. Like, there's nothing will top this moment.
Oh my gosh. Except for the collab. I'm still holding out my hope.
We'll
When she was
see.
first doing Instagram Live, it was or no, I think she was using someone else's. She's just adorable. Were you
Yeah.
watching when she was like doing the readings in Moira's
Yes.
voice? Like,
Which lobcock. I love when she get that one just stopped her in her tracks when she's just going through her book of unusual words. Lobcock.
right.
Let's hope we're all not lobcocks. And watching her just sort of slip in and out of the accent.
Yes.
Um,
Uh-huh.
she's yeah, and I don't think she's on social media because that's what she said. Her friends have shown her my videos,
Yeah.
um,
And
and so I think yeah, she's just using the Schitt's Creek account, which
oh,
also I
that's
kind of
right. That's right.
love that she's not like a social media person. That
Uh-huh.
she just seems so chill,
Yes.
and so unfazed by this. Where she's like, "Oh, I'm super famous now. Cool."
Yeah.
Like,
Just
okay.
whatever. What is your, you also mentioned, if Catherine, I'm still holding, Catherine as a collab and it's like Moira versus Moira,
Uh,
type of thing. What is the fascination with Maggie Smith? What she's runner up. So tell
I
me.
talk about her so much now. I've loved Maggie Smith since I was a little kid. And I saw her in a movie called Murder by Death. So it was young, not even old Maggie Smith, like when she was young and dishy. Um,
Okay.
and she plays sort of like the sexy sidekick to David Niven. And she's so funny. Um, I don't know what it is. I just love her. I think Maggie Smith is one of those just brilliant personalities that she's sort of cultivated over this 60-year career. And she seems like somebody who can do literally anything. She can be absolutely hilarious. She can do sketch comedy, but then she can do these like heavy dramatic roles. Um, and I sort of respect how she's always been so outspoken about,
Mhm.
and so um, I don't know what the word, not protective of herself, but she's really just truly owned herself since the beginning. So she's just one of those actors that I've so much respect for because she can do literally anything and is so unapologetically herself.
Yes.
Um, and also, I just love the way she speaks. I could listen to her and her weird little quirky Maggie Smith mannerisms. I could watch her all
Uh-huh.
day.
Uh-huh.
I
I'm
don't know
holding
why.
out.
I just love her. The little 8-year-old in me just found her fascinating.
Yeah, I'm holding out for that collaboration
Could
as
you
well, for
imagine?
sure.
Like, I'm Maggie Smith. She'd be like, why am I here? Who are you?
Oh my God, it's so good. Yeah, so I mean, I just when tell me about this. I want to talk about like milk water a little bit, but I also just want to like ease into like how a day looks for you, like, in this I don't know if it's like, would you say it's like a bigger version of yourself, a more authentic, you mentioned about feeling free, and how do you keep up that momentum, keep up that freedom? What would you tell someone who's afraid, who's kind of in that space where there's something they want to do and they're not doing it, or they're telling themselves, some of the things that you told yourself when you weren't posting the things, the ideas that you had that you didn't do. What would you tell to either former you, or the version of you that's existing right now, that's not in what I call their zone of genius? Because
Mhm.
when I see you in doing, I'm like always comment, I'm like genius, brilliant, genius, genius,
Yeah.
because it's really for anybody, and for anybody who follows any kind of writing or anything. I mean, your writing is impeccable, nailing the not just the mannerisms and the impressions, but like the writing and the tone and the things that she would say. And you do add that element of the goody two shoe humanity side of her, but it's still authentic to who she is. You just highlight that part of her. So I mean, I'm blown away by your talent in just creating all the things that you create. So that's what I call my zone of genius, and I feel like
Mhm.
all of us have this zone of genius, and it takes something to get there, right? So like it took something for you to push through your fear and to take the fuck it pill and to
Yeah.
post and to do all the things. So what would you tell someone who's in that space of kind of feeling stuck, feeling like they couldn't quite, they're not quite there yet?
Um, excuse me. Um, I would say to do whatever feels most honest and authentic for you.
Hmm.
Um, and to keep it positive. I think it's whatever genuinely makes you happy and
Mm.
sounds truly genuine to you, then will translate into, say it is you want to write something, you want to create something, and to not worry about, is this going to be successful?
Mm.
Where is this going to get me? Um, and to have that sort of looking ahead in mind, but just think for right now, like, is this something that genuinely makes me happy? And is this something that generally rings true to who I am? Because I think then it will be successful, because I think people can sense honesty and they can sense when people are being disingenuine. And um, so that's what I would say. Because before this, I had so many ideas that those little voices in the back of my head would tell me they were stupid, or that no one would listen to me, or this won't go anywhere. This won't lead me to anything.
Mhm.
Um, and this was one of the first things I think I set out, not ever thinking that this would actually go anywhere. I didn't think anyone would actually want to watch this. And I think because of that, it freed
Yes.
me up
Mm.
to give it sort of, even though I'm doing it through Moira Rose, it's like you said, these words are my words and these are my points of view. And
Right.
it's what's uplift, like these are what I find uplifting, what I find hopeful. And so I think that's what it is. I think it's that level of honesty. Because even when I got going, I had friends tell me I was doing Instagram and TikTok, I was doing it wrong. They're like, you're doing social media wrong, Michael. You're just monologuing in a
Rude.
way. You're not, yeah, you're not doing the dance challenges. You're not doing the whatever. And I was like, A, I'm not tech savvy enough to even know how to do these challenges.
Yeah.
So my version of doing this is me just sitting in my kitchen with my phone in a wig talking.
Uh-huh.
And so that's what it is. I think I wish I had known that earlier, is that when you are very true to yourself and you do sort of stick to the more positive, the ways that you can look at the world, people respond to that.
Yeah.
Um, you know, sorry, that
And
was sort of a kind of all over the place. You'd think I would have a better answer for that question.
no, it's perfect because I think, what was coming up for me is like to not be attached to the outcome,
Yes,
like,
and to not try and shoehorn yourself into other people's journeys.
mm,
Because I feel like we all look at other people who are doing something very successful and we're like, well, if I do the same thing, then I'll be successful because that's what I want, is that end goal.
mm,
And
mm,
and maybe it's not the most authentic thing for you.
mm-hmm.
Um, like Alexis, like love that journey for you, but make sure it's your journey, not somebody else's.
With that said, what sort of sayings are you getting all the time that you're just like, I mean, is there an element of yourself that's like tired of the Schitt's Creek innuendos or phrases, or do you find yourself thinking in character all the time now? Talking in character all the time now? Like, what is that?
Um, I I definitely I definitely have to be cognizant of not speaking like Moira sometimes. Because I think part of the reason I could do the accent, because I actually never sat down and practiced the accent. I just sort of
Yeah.
did it. Um,
Yeah.
I never remember sitting in front of a mirror and being like, okay, how does Moira move? How does she talk? I just sort of did it. And I don't have a rhyme or reason or pattern. It all just sort of each time feels a little bit different. So my natural cadence, I think, was close.
Uh-huh.
So, but now I'll be, I'll talk to friends, I'll talk to my family, and I'll be like, well, yes. And they're like, oh my God. You need to
She's
just be
taking
a
over.
little aware of like you've been doing this, especially if I've been doing it all day.
Uh-huh.
It's a little hard to shake. And then Alexis too. Um, the
Yes.
way she speaks is so infectious. And
It
just because
is.
it genuinely just makes me happy. Like
Uh-huh.
her so happy-go-lucky tone.
Yeah.
Um, just it's so beautifully bouncy, at least the way I do it. And
Yeah.
it actually makes me happier when I'm done doing Alexis. Um,
Yes. Even when
yeah.
she's like insulting, she's like, "You're such a dick, David."
It's like
Like,
dictated. Yeah, it still sounds fun. You and even I don't know how Annie Murphy found it, but like when I do her, it's sort of like everything goes up, like everything goes
yes.
up and back.
Uh-huh.
So it almost feels like I'm dancing in my chair, which is just fun.
Yes. Like I would have sent you that gif or whatever after they think they're moving to New York and she's like, whoop, whoop, whoop,
Oh, the
whoop,
hair flip,
whoop.
yeah.
It's so great. It's so
Yeah.
great. I'm just so grateful for you and season I call it season 7. Because I feel like I'm getting my fix. I'm getting my brilliant writing. I'm getting all of the things still, and it's new and it's fresh. And I'm like, what's Michael coming out with today? And
Yeah.
so do you feel like, pressure? Do you feel like are you just like having fun? And like how does it occur to you now that you've gone from, kind of just doing it for fun to people, like it's a thing, right?
Mhm.
So how does that land for you in your day to day?
Um, I did hit one point where it was really stressful.
Okay.
The first one I had go kind of viral, if you will.
Mhm,
And then
mhm,
all of a sudden I got this wave of followers. And it stopped being like, oh, well, this is sort of a fun thing that maybe a couple hundred people see, to now it's like, oh, this is something that thousands of people see. And
uh-huh,
then I fell back into sort of where I was when I started, that
mm,
nervous feeling of people are not going to like this, or um, I'm going to upset people, or I'm going to turn people off. Then I just sort of, there was sort of a pressure to deliver.
mm,
Um, and then I kind of got over it. I let it go, if you will.
yeah,
And one of the nice things about being in lockdown is that, like, I've had people say, how has your life changed? And it's like, it hasn't, because I'm still kind of in lockdown. Like,
yeah,
I'm still just sitting in a kitchen. I just have more wigs. That's how my life has changed. I'm still,
uh-huh,
and that's what I sort of had to remind myself was why I started this in the first place and what was fun about it in the first place. And in, and now I'm sort of back to that mindset where I'm going to do a video that brings me joy. It makes me laugh,
mm,
or it's something important that I feel I want to say, like after the Capitol riots or something like that, where it's like, I have something I want to say. How can I say it in a delicate, fun way?
yeah,
Um, and if the video gets 2 views or 2 million views, I'm still proud of it. And so that's where I've ended up. So now it's that brief stress period I sort of let go, and now I'm still just having fun. It's like a
Yeah.
fun challenge to think, what am I gonna do next? Like
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna make one today. And I woke up this morning with no idea what I was gonna do and just laid in bed for half an hour and sort of mentally sketched out an idea. And I was like, okay, this is what today's will be. Um,
It's so
so
great.
and sometimes they're more planned in advance. Sometimes it's like I know a few days ahead I'm gonna do this. But yeah, some days I just wake up and I'm like, oh, that's a funny idea. Let me try it and see
Yeah.
how it. And the ones that have gone viral, there seems to be no rhyme or reason to me. It's like that one got 9 million views, this one got 10,000 views. I think they're equally good. I think
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how social media works.
No.
Um, but
I heard from one of the comedians that I followed that he said, it just is, if it's true, if it's funny, and it has to be funny and true, like there has to be an element of truth to it. So
mhm.
I just think it resonates with whoever it resonates with, in terms of, oh, this is funny and it's true. Like I love all of the things. Like I like everyone. I mean, I'm one of those people who's like, I didn't think you could top your last one. Like everything
But
it just gets better and better, and just absolute genius. So
thank you. And that is good to hear. I do. I scroll through those comments, and so does my mother, because I love she's having her little 15 minutes too, where now people
so
message because she
cute.
always comments, "This is Michael's mother. I'm very proud of it." Or like she'll comment on
Uh-huh.
people's, like one lady said, which I thought was really sweet. She was like, "I just spent 6 hours or 7 hours in the ER. And so I just watched your videos because I needed something happy to watch while I was
Yes.
killing time." And then my mom commented immediately, was like, "This is Michael's mother. Are you all right? I need
She's
to
so
know that you're
sweet.
okay." And so like, and I love that people have sort of gotten to meet each other from
Uh-huh.
commenting on my stuff. And there's this own sort of little like sub community that's been really fun to watch blossom. And I've made new friends all over the world. Like now I know you. And I this lovely man named Sean who lives in Scotland, who I did a birthday video for his husband once, and now we DM all the time.
Oh my God. First
And
of all, can I just say, like, I got into a Cameo wormhole last night and I'm just like, oh my God, like, I just think that's the best idea. And I'm so excited. I'm like, I can't wait to like book you for shit
oh,
all
for a
over the place.
cameo, they're
Um,
fun.
yeah.
Um, I find some of my best words from doing cameos for people.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, well, you're an absolute gem, and you're just an example of all the things that I look for in the world for more people to be doing, like overcoming their fear, being more confident, shining their light,
mhm.
being more positive, and just being in their zone of genius, and being creative, and asking themselves, how can I be more authentic, and how can I be more free, and how can I just not be attached to the outcome. um yeah, so I could just go on and on about the exquisiteness that is Michael Judson Berry.
Thank
So
you. And can you
um
summarize every one of my ramblings? Because you just managed to take everything I said and condense it into something really eloquent and nice. So if
yes.
you could just do every interview with me, that'd be awesome.
Yes, I just like that's who I mean I want more men to be, straight, gay, wherever you are in the spectrum, to
Uh-huh.
to be having these conversations, to be getting into that awareness with themselves, because I feel like men on the whole, there's a disequilibrium, if that's a word. You can look it up later. It's
Sure.
probably not. Um Moira's like, that's not a word, honey.
That's I don't believe that's in my lexicological. I don't even know. Sorry, but just this is went right off the rails there.
Yeah, so there's this disequilibrium for men, like we feel like we can't say this, or this isn't manly, or this is, I mean, it doesn't matter what your orientation is. Like men think, it's this, patriarchal thing, like femininity is bad, like any element of femininity is less than, or anything like that, right? And
Yeah.
so, I look to forward the conversation for more men to be more authentic and be more fully self-expressed. So, you're an
Fully.
example of that. And so, I just, not that every man needs to be wearing a wig doing impressions, but you hold the space for other men to be like, what I'm going to do, that's a little racy, that's a little go against the grain, and
Mhm.
so by doing you,
Well,
other people can be themselves. So that's why,
thanks.
you're an inspiration.
And sticking to your comfort zone, sorry, because I know you're probably but that just made me think, because even with all this, like, yes, I wear a wig and yes, I put on women's clothes, I never shave. and I never wear
Love
makeup,
that.
and you can usually see my chest hair. And just because
Bonus.
I thought about it, and for me, I was like, I could go full drag and do makeup and do all of that, but A, I'm awful at makeup, it would look terrible. And B, that just felt a little farther than I wanted to go. Um,
Yeah.
and I so that's what finding what that level is for you. It's like you there is a blend where you can wear a wig and do parodies of women and stuff, but like not shave and have scruff and fully acknowledge that you are a man wearing
Yeah.
a wig.
Yeah.
I have too much respect for drag queens to even pretend that I am someone in that world. What they do is an art form that I probably am not capable of. But it's knowing that like there are so many variations within that spectrum of expressing both your masculine and feminine side in a way
Mm-hmm.
that feels comfortable and authentic to you.
Yes.
Sorry, you were just saying that, and I don't know why I felt like putting that
No,
out
it's
there.
like it's the direction that I want to see the world move into, because when I feel like when we let go of the conflict within ourselves and our own self-expression, then we allow for more peace and harmony around us in our relationships.
Totally.
So, it's about doing the work yourself and taking the fuck it pill
Hmm.
and being willing to be brave and courageous. And in that space, like you said, like you show up more confident, you show up more sure of yourself, and in that space you're not going to necessarily be like there's not going to be all this misdirected projected anger and hostility when you're just in your own when you're in your zone of genius and you're doing what you love and you're comfortable in your own skin. Like it's like my code for world peace, and I know that's
Hmm.
Pollyanna, but
Hey,
I seriously feel like if you're if you are in that space of your zone of genius and you're doing your thing and you're being authentic, then you're not going to rush to this. We're going to fight about this, that, or the other, or we're going to wage war. That's mine. This is yours. Kind of like going back to what you said in the beginning, like we're all playing in the same sandbox. We're all just
yeah.
grown up kids and, sharing with one another and helping one another and making the world a better place. And, there's our king, Michael Judson Berry,
Oh, that was lovely. And
leading the force.
the world could use more Pollyannas,
Yes.
honestly.
Yes, we need more Pollyannas, more Moiras, more all the things. So, um, yeah. So other than the usual, let's follow you on Michael Judson Berry and all your links and all that stuff. You have Milkwater, which is out, or it was a little hard for me to tell. Like it was released in some of the independent film festivals already. Can anybody see it now, or where is it existing right now?
Not yet. So yes,
Okay.
it's this lovely indie sort of dramedy about
Okay.
this
Yeah.
young woman who agrees to be a surrogate for an older gay man who does drag. And he's always wanted a baby, and she's sort of looking for meaning in her life. And so you follow her over the course of the pregnancy and what being a surrogate means to her and how it changes her life.
Mm.
Played by Molly Bernard, if for people who watch Younger, she's on that. Um, it's this really lovely, lovely film. And so yeah, so it was in it did a whole all the festivals last year,
Right.
and it won
Mm.
Best Picture, Best Screenplay. It did very well. And so it should be streaming. I actually heard from the producers recently. It should be streaming within the next couple of months. They didn't
Oh,
say which
great.
one, but I think it's Netflix, but I could be
Ooh.
wrong. But it should be streaming soon. So just kind of have to keep an eye out for it. But it is a
Yes, I
really
can't
lovely
wait.
film.
I can't wait to see it. It said that, you could relate to it because it's really, about a character who is, finding out who they are and where they fit into the world. So,
Yeah, and for me it was nice because I played one of the few self-assured characters. I played this very
of
sweet guy named Teddy who's just like he's not the
course
brightest,
you
but he's
did.
happy to be there.
Yeah.
And he's a lot like
Eddie.
Ted on Schitt's Creek, but if Ted was like not quite so smart. Um, so it was sort of nice playing a self-assured person in a story about somebody in their 30s who's feeling lost, because at that point in my life, I was someone in my 30s feeling very lost.
Hmm.
So in that sense, it was a very cool experience.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. So, what
Yeah.
other things is there a pilot? Is there what other, you mentioned you're going on auditions more because, obviously you're more people know who you is.
Hmm.
But what other projects and things have you got working on that you can share?
Oh, uh, nothing official, I suppose. I am writing something. I'm collaborating with an actor in London right now on a project.
Mm.
But it's not quite at that point where I'm like,
Right, right,
here's
right.
what this is. We're,
Right, yes.
only our 15th rewrite out of the 7,000 that we're gonna do.
That's
So
great.
that's in development. And that's sort of the big one right now. And then yeah, just auditioning as much as I can. I just had a
Yeah.
commercial come out for Acorns, and it's
I
great because now
saw
people
that.
see it
That
and they're
was
like, the Moira guy is in an Acorns commercial.
It's so
Um,
great. And did you get
so
that audition, you think, because of, I mean, did that occur during the like the
it
timing
did.
of it? Yeah.
Yeah. And it was very cool. It was very interesting shooting on a set during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Which luckily they were very, very, very careful. It was a
Yeah.
very safe set.
Yeah.
Um, which was it was an interesting experience. But it was a lot of fun. Um, so hopefully more of that. We'll see. It's one of those things. I think because of COVID and being an artist in general during this time is very difficult. So it is
Yeah.
very much forcing me to, again, just sort of live in the moment and
Mm,
enjoy the moment and not be so concerned about what's coming up next. Just because I have
yes.
so little control over what's happening, and so few of us
Always.
do. So it's like I'm just
And
gonna enjoy making my little videos and enjoy spending time with my parents, which
yeah.
in normal life, how often do I get to do that? So
Yes, that's just
yeah.
exquisite, and I'm so excited to see what comes next. Always, if anyone, I mean, I'm always pushing everybody to the show, and then I'm like, then you have to, like, it's just a twofold thing with me. Like, if you're gonna be friends with me, you have to watch the show, and then you have to follow Michael Judson Berry. So,
Thank
uh,
you.
yes, and again, just thank you so much for shining your light and being who you are and being free and encouraging and inspiring more people than you probably realize to do the same for themselves. So
Oh,
thank you for being a
thank
man who
you.
shines his light.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for being here. All right, until next time, my friend, I will talk to you soon.
Great.
Bye.
Bye.